Hello everyone. This is a little bit of a vent video, I guess. Just a little bit of getting rid of some feelings and some thoughts that have been bothering me. This is some footage from the last stream of Hollow Knight that we did. I've been playing through it, and in Hollow Knight there's some DLC that I've committed to playing through the DLC. It's part of a donation incentive. And one of the DLC pieces, called the Grim Troop, has two possible outcomes with which you can end the story of that particular DLC. You can either complete the ritual that you are undertaking over the course of the game for the obviously evil circus master who keeps warning you with sort of halfway cryptic hints about, oh, this ritual does dangerous things, you should think very carefully before you help me complete it. We're engaging in this deadly dance, and what the outcome may be. Ooh, like, it constantly giving you these sort of cryptic warnings about the nefariousness of his purpose, and warning you to be conscious of the choices that you're making. Eventually, you get the option, rather than completing his ritual and helping him do, collect the dark flames and do whatever it is he's going to do, you get the option to interrupt the ritual instead, to banish him, to cancel it, and to get rid of him. Instead of perpetuating the cycle of the ritual happening over and over again. And the way that you're told about this option to, not complete the ritual is by way of one of his henchmen telling you that this cycle has been happening over and over again, and he's rather tired of it. He doesn't want that to be happening anymore, and he's going to give you an option to, like, just this once spare Hallow Nest from the effects of the ritual. And so, for me, my read on the story of Hollow Knight is that it's a game about this vicious cycle of destruction and perpetuation. Like, you have this blight, the radiance that is infecting Hallow Nest, and which is, taking over the minds of bugs and has rendered it this empty, zombie-infested wasteland of a hellhole. And you are a vessel, a thing that is created to absorb and contain that infection in order to keep the kingdom of Hallow Nest alive. Unfortunately, you're just one of many vessels, and one of them has started to fail, which is why your services are now required. And then one of the endings you can get to the game is where you defeat the Hollow Knight, you take the infection into yourself, and then you perpetuate the cycle. Like, then you're going to be sitting around in the Hollow Knight's place, just kind of absorbing the infection, until maybe one day eventually it's gonna crack you as well. And the game says, like, there's multiple different endings to the game, and one of the other ones that exists that I'm trying to get right now seems to be more about, hey, there's a way to end this. There's a way to destroy the radiance rather than just trying to contain it over and over again, rather than just restarting the cycle of Hallow Nest. And so when I run into this Grim DLC, where a lot of the story around it, a lot of the narrative around it is very much also about, we have this ritual, we're doing it over and over again, it's part of this never-ending cycle. And I go, well, that sure sounds familiar. So for me, narratively, what was satisfying to me from a narrative perspective was interrupting the ritual, ending it, instead of perpetuating it, and so that's what I did. And that made me a little bit unpopular with a certain subset of the community on my stream, I have to say. I got, like, there was a bunch of people saying no in the chat when I made the decision not to fight the boss that you're actually about to see me fight right here, because he's available also in the DLC. Because they wanted to see me play that boss fight. They wanted to see me play through that version of the story, and that's completely fair. I completely get that. I completely understand why that's disappointing. Like, when you really wanted to see, a streamer or someone play through a particular version of the story, or play through a particular story beat, and then in their particular playthrough, they just miss that content, or they don't see it, or they decide not to go through it on that particular path. That is disappointing. That can be very frustrating. And I completely get that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with being frustrated about that. And there's nothing wrong with complaining about that, or being, sad or annoyed that that's the way things shook out. But a lot of the comments I got, like, a lot of the stuff I wasn't looking at chat the whole time, but a lot of the stuff I saw, and then some of the comments I've been getting since then have been not really about, oh man, I'm disappointed he didn't go through the story the way I would have wanted him to, and more, you're a stupid idiot and you're playing the game wrong. And I don't really like that at all, I have to say. I really don't like that very much at all. Because, so, what there was a couple of comments that I deleted on the VOD of this particular stream, because they were really just kind of nasty. One of them basically calling me an idiot, you're making all the wrong decisions, you're playing the game wrong, and that makes your stream shitty. Which is like, that's not really at all useful criticism to me. That doesn't help me be better at playing the game, and that doesn't help me or anyone else have a better time. That's not constructive criticism, so I got rid of it. And then another one that just called me stupid. And there's still a comment somewhere on that VOD that I haven't deleted because it's not directly directed at me, but it's sort of passive-aggressively feels like it's directed at me, saying that the option to interrupt the ritual, the option to stop it from happening rather than go through it, is an option for cowards. Like, it's there for any coward who's not, willing to... who's not brave enough to actually go through with the boss fight or actually see where the DLC will lead. Like, see the story through to the end instead of pussying out like a coward. And it wasn't directly pointed at me, so I decided to let it slide. But I think that's a really ugly attitude. Not just towards, like, one streamer playing the game in one particular way, but towards gaming especially. Like, and towards video games, and just towards the community building aspect of video games. It's this... One of the comments was like, you keep making these unoptimal choices, and now that you've, took that story decision to get out of the DLC, you've locked yourself out of some really useful charms that you should have had for the rest of the game. And I'm like, no, I don't accept that at all, because this is my playthrough. Like, I'm the one playing through the game. I'm generally very receptive to chat telling me, hey, you missed a thing, go back and get it, or hey, there's an NPC you can talk to over there, go over and talk to them. I'm generally very receptive to that, because it's like the stream is for their benefit, obviously. And that's part of it. But that attitude, that one about, like, if you're not using this build, or if you're not picking up these items, or if you're not completing the game in this way, or if you're not making these story choices, then you're being stupid, or then you're playing the game wrong, or especially then you're being a coward. No, I absolutely not. I think that is incredibly toxic and incredibly unpleasant and really disrespectful towards the game. Like, and disrespectful towards gaming as a thing, as a hobby. It's really, that's really not an attitude I want to see in my community, in the community around my content and my work. Because, like, these are video games. Like, these are like books, these are like stories, these are experiences. It's not that whole thing about you have to play the game in the optimal way, or you have to play the game this way, you have to play the game that way, you have to use this build, you have to make those story choices, you have to pick up these items. Or, like, that to me is a really ugly way of looking at things. And that whole thing about if you don't play through the DLC in a certain way, you're a coward, is just stupid and wrong. Like, sorry to the guy who posted that, but that is a stupid and wrong-headed attitude, I think. It is, like, I don't care if the game design intention of Team Cherry when giving an opt-out option to that particular DLC is to just let players not have to fight Grim, the troop leader. It's as part of the story, as part of the narrative, as part of the text of the game, as an art piece. That is a valid option. It's a thing that your character can choose to do within the confines of the narrative. And, like, that whole thing about insisting on classifying the game only as a mechanical experience, because I think that's where it comes from. Like, I think it really is, that's where that particular attitude comes from, is this obsession with the video game only as a mechanical experience, only as an entertainment product in the mechanical sense of the gameplay and nothing else, which is something I see a lot with my Dark Souls content as well, where people will, like, some of them will be perfectly benign about it. Will just be kind of like, hey, I have this playstyle that I prefer to play with, where instead of using a sword and shield and using heavy armor, you do some light armor instead, and you get you know, focus on rolling, and you try to parry and stuff like that, which is completely fine and fair and benign. But then there are the people who are like, lol, this fucking loser idiot is using a sword and shield and fat rolling. Lol, 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 stupid, bad, dumb gameplay. I don't like that attitude. I don't want to see that attitude in my community. I don't want to encourage it. In fact, I want to discourage it. So I'm thinking about how to do that. Because I don't want to do it in, like, the super... like, because this video is a little bit preachy. Because it's my vlog. I can do whatever the fuck I want. I don't want to do it in the preachy way of, if you think of video games this way, then fuck off. You're not welcome here kind of way. But in the way of... I want to encourage people to see video games a little bit more holistically than that. Like, to not see the thing of, it's about... because that's... one of my favorite games of all time is Undertale. And H-Bomber Guy has a fantastic video about Undertale, where one of the things... the argument he makes is that one of the things that Undertale is very much about is about how we engage with video games, where some people will do anything just to see if they can, right? That's the point of the genocide run, is that yes, you can go through Undertale experiencing every boss fight, fighting all the enemies, and, you know, killing everybody that you can, but one of the questions that the game asks as the player is, why would you want to? Like, why you're going through this game, you're killing these characters, you're committing all these horrible actions just to see what would happen. You're going through the game just to see what would happen on the other side. Like, what kind of ending do I get if I kill everyone? And that attitude is something, since I played Undertale, I've been thinking a lot about that. I've been thinking a lot about that attitude to video games, where it's like, oh, you should do this thing and that thing, and you should do all the things, and you should see all the content, and you should experience all the content, which is also, it ties into how, it's also how AAA games are marketed these days. Like, it's kind of part of my reaction against that, where, like, Ubisoft games and games as services, where the thing they're promoting themselves on is, oh, there's so much content, there's so much stuff to do, there's so many map markers, there's so many things you can go and do. That's the value of video games, is that it's something you can go and do. You can go and do this thing, you can go and see this thing, and those attitudes, like that attitude from AAA gaming, where they market themselves as being a game with 4 million hours of content and like 100 billion different kinds of mini games and sub games, and the Grand Theft Auto thing, and the Assassin's Creed thing, and the Division, and all of those sort of live service games, where with games kind of just as an activity, where it's like, go and see all the content. Go and see all the stuff that's in the video game. Go and see all the things. Go and do all the activities. Go and get all of the experience points. Go and, you know, gather all of the equipment. Like all the high-level loot or whatever, which is very much like the core gameplay loop of games like Destiny or Anthem. And that attitude is completely fine for those games, because they're built to support that style of play. They're built to support that style of engaging with a video game. But a game like Hollow Knight, which is so intensely narrative, which is so intensely about not just the story, but also the world and the experience of being in it, and the experience of seeing the story of the game, of seeing the story of this place. There's so many characters in Hollow Knight that the game wants you to care about. You meet these characters on your way, Quirrell and Breda and, you know, and Cloth, and all of them, that you're supposed to identify with them. You're supposed to be interested in them. You're supposed to start caring about them, start building some kind of a character relationship with them. That's not a game where you do stuff just to see what would happen. At least that's not my philosophy anyway. I don't like doing stuff in a game like that just to see what would happen. For the same reason that, like, in Dark Souls, I don't go around killing NPCs everywhere just to see what would happen. I know it's possible. You can kill all the NPCs if you want, but I don't do it. Not because, oh, then they can't sell me things, or not because, oh, then I can't get the dialogue options with them later on, but because that to me is not the point of playing the game. Is not to see everything that you could possibly see in the game. The point of the game is to experience it. Is to go through it, to have an experience, to have an emotional and intellectual experience that you can think about later. And this whole... And, like, this is way beyond any of... Like, nobody in I'm not saying anybody who's disappointed that I didn't play through Grim Troop the way they wanted me to is, like, an anti-intellectual asshole or on the side of AAA gaming or whatever. This is really not what I'm trying to... This is sort of more of an extemporaneous... It's related to those attitudes. Like, it's related to that vision of gaming, that look at the medium, where the right way to play video games, the optimal way to play, the correct way to go through a video game is to see all the content, all of it, 100% the thing, that attitude. And nobody's telling me to 112% the game, but that they wanted me to 100% the DLC, that's for sure. They wanted me to get all the charms. Like, there's the 3 charms you can get, the fragile charms that you can upgrade to unbreakable charms through the Grim Troop DLC, right? And a lot of people were really like, but now you can't upgrade your fragile charms to the full ones. And I'm like, I'm okay with that. I don't care. Like, they just up my stats a little bit. That's it. That's all they are. They're not important. But there is a certain vision of gaming where that stuff is the important stuff. Like the loot and seeing every story scene and seeing every dialogue option and seeing all the things, seeing all the content, going through everything that's in there. And I don't like that at all. I just don't. That's just not how I engage with video games. That's just not how I do it. That's just not how I enjoy playing them at all. It just isn't. I can't get behind it. And I don't mind people, again, as I've said many, many times already, I don't mind people being disappointed that I didn't go through a certain bit of the content that they wanted me to go through. I don't begrudge people that at all. But I do begrudge that gamer elitism attitude and that particular sort of the content is everything attitude, where if you don't do the game in a certain way, if you don't see certain parts of the game, and if you don't, go through certain quest lines or go through certain dialogue options or whatever, then you're a lesser gamer. Like, then you're doing the game wrong, then you're playing the game wrong. And if anyone doesn't enjoy watching me stream, then they absolutely shouldn't do it. Like, then they should do something much better with their time, like watching a streamer who's better at playing the game in a way that they enjoy. That's really what they should do. Not in the kind of fuck off and don't come back sense, but in the sense of that's way better for all of us. It's better for me, it's better for them if they spend their time doing something they enjoy rather than sit around being frustrated by the fact that I don't see the game in the same way that they do. But yeah, like I said, this is just a vent. Please, please, please don't go looking for comments to start debating with or start, arguing with them or being shitty towards them because they made me a little upset one time. Please don't do that. I'm a big boy. It's all right. I just wanted to talk about it for a while.